four horsemen of the apocalypse appear in the book of Revelation, the last book of the Christian Bible, written around the year 95 after Christ by someone who identified himself as John. This book was written at a time when Christians were being persecuted by the Roman Empire, and the language used was full of symbols and codes so that the persecutors would not understand exactly what was being said. The text talks about the end times, about judgment, about destruction and renewal, and in the middle of all that, four horsemen appear riding horses of different colors, each bringing a specific destructive force to the world. The first horseman rides a white horse and carries a bow. He wears a crown and goes out conquering and to conquer. Many people think this horseman represents conquest, expansionist warfare, the kind of violence that is not chaotic but organized and purposeful. Some interpretations say he represents Christ himself coming to judge, but the most accepted reading is that he symbolizes military conquest, imperialism, the will to dominate territories and people. This horseman does not bring brutal and bloody war right away. He brings the idea of victory, of expansion, of growth through force. It is a type of violence that disguises itself as progress, that sells itself as necessary to bring civilization to other places. The second horseman rides a red horse and carries a large sword. He was given power to take peace from the earth, so that people would kill each other. This is a horseman of open war, of direct conflict, of spilled blood. While the first horseman represents calculated conquest, the second brings a chaos of uncontrolled violence. It is civil war. It is brother killing brother. It is society destroying itself from within. It is not the war of expansion with organized armies marching to conquer distant lands. It is a violence that erupts at home, that destroys the social order, that turns neighbors against each other. The third horseman rides a black horse and holds a scale in his hand. A voice announces the absurd price of wheat and barley, saying not to damage the oil and wine. This horseman represents famine, but not just any kind of famine. He represents a famine caused by economic injustice, by the unequal distribution of resources. The scale shows that there is still commerce, there is still food, but the price is so high that most people cannot buy it. The detail about not damaging the oil and wine shows that luxury products, the things the rich consume, remain protected. So it is not a famine of total scarcity. It is the famine that exists when there is food left over in one place and people dying of need in another. The fourth horseman rides a pale greenish-yellow horse, the color of a decomposing corpse. His name is Death, and Hades follows close behind. He was given power over a quarter of the earth to kill with sword, with famine, with plague, and with the wild beasts of the earth. This horseman brings all forms of death together. He is the final result of the other three. When you have conquest, war, and famine together, what comes next is mass death, disease, the total collapse of the structures that keep people alive. Now, what does this have to do with the real lives of people today? Much more than it seems. These four horsemen are not just figures from an ancient religious text. They are patterns of destructive behavior that repeat throughout human history and that continue to appear in different forms in modern society. Think about the first horseman, the one of conquest. Today, he does not come riding a white horse with a bow in his hand. He comes disguised as market expansion, as globalization, as companies that enter poor countries promising development and jobs, but are actually there to suck natural resources and cheap labor. He comes in the form of cultural influence that erases local traditions and imposes a single way of living, thinking, and consuming. He is present when a large corporation buys all the small businesses in a region and turns it into a monopoly where people have no choice. Modern conquest does not need armies. It uses contracts, trade agreements, unpayable debts, and economic dependence. The result is the same. One group dominates another, takes away autonomy, imposes its rules. And the people who work for these structures of modern conquest often do not even realize they are part of it. They think they are just doing their job, growing their career, contributing to progress. But when you look at the final effect, you see that this progress benefits few and harms many. Conquest sells itself as something good, necessary, inevitable. It has always been this way. The Roman Empire said it brought civilization to the barbarians while enslaving entire peoples. European powers said they colonized Africa and America to bring education and religion while stealing gold and selling people as merchandise. Today, multinational companies say they bring development while destroying the environment and paying miserable wages. The second horseman, the one of open war and direct conflict, is more obvious. Just look at the places where there is still physical war with weapons and bombs. But he is also present in more subtle ways. He is in the political polarization that makes people in the same family stop talking because they've voted for different candidates. He is in online discussions that escalate to real hatred, to desire for the other to suffer, to verbal violence that sometimes becomes physical violence. He is in the way groups form around identities and then spend all their energy attacking other groups instead of solving real problems. The interesting thing is that the internet, which should be a tool for connection and information exchange, has become a permanent battlefield. People do not enter social networks to talk. They enter to win arguments, to destroy other people's arguments, to prove that the other side is wrong. And the algorithms of these platforms were programmed to encourage exactly that, because content that generates anger and indignation receives more engagement than content that generates calm reflection. So the second horseman is riding inside the cell phone of billions of people every day, encouraging small wars all the time. The third horseman, the one of famine and economic injustice, is more present than ever. We live in a world where enough food is produced to feed 10 billion people, but almost 1 billion go hungry. The scale he holds could not be a more perfect symbol for the current economy. There is food, there are resources, but the distribution is absurdly unequal. And it is not by accident, it is by choice. These are political and economic decisions that keep the system functioning this way. And that detail about not damaging the oil and wine, the luxury products? Look at any recent economic crisis. When the economy goes bad, who suffers? Ordinary people lose jobs, lose homes, lose access to health and education. But the very rich remain rich. In fact, in many crises, they get even richer because they can buy devalued assets at low prices. During the pandemic, while millions of people lost everything, some billionaires increased their fortunes by absurd percentages. The wine and oil are always protected. And this does not just happen at the global level of billionaires and famine in Africa. It happens in the daily life of any city. There are people working 40 hours a week and still cannot afford rent and food. There are people doing 2 or 3 jobs and living on the edge. And at the same time, there are people accumulating wealth they could not spend in 10 lifetimes. The scale is completely unbalanced, and everyone sees it. But the system keeps working this way because those who have the power to change benefit from how things are. The fourth horseman, death, is a consequence of the other 3. When you put together predatory conquest, social conflict, and economic injustice, the result is death. It can be literal death, as in wars and famine. It can be symbolic death, as when people lose the will to live because they see no future, because they are trapped in cycles of meaningless work, because every attempt to improve their own lives seems blocked. It can be spiritual death, when someone continues breathing but is not really alive, just fulfilling mechanical routines without purpose or real connection to anything. This horseman is present in the increase in cases of depression, anxiety, and suicide in almost every country in the world. He is present in the epidemic of drug use, both illegal and legal drugs prescribed by doctors to keep people functioning in a system that makes them sick. He is present in the way people treat their own bodies, slowly destroying themselves with bad habits, because deep down they do not feel it is worth taking care of themselves. But there is another way to look at these 4 horsemen that goes beyond social analysis and enters the field of individual behavior and occultism. In the occult tradition, symbols like these are not just metaphors for external events. They also represent internal forces that exist within each person. So each horseman can be seen as an aspect of the human psyche that, when uncontrolled, leads to personal destruction. The horseman of conquest inside you is that voice that always wants more. More money, more status, more recognition, more achievements to put on your resume or post on social media. It is a part that is never satisfied, that turns every experience into competition, that sees other people as steps or obstacles instead of human beings. When this horseman takes control of your mind, you live in an endless race. Each goal achieved loses value the second after, and you are already thinking about the next one. You conquer things, But you cannot enjoy anything because you are always focused on what you do not have yet. The horsemen of internal war is a conflict that happens inside your head. It is when different parts of you enter combat. The part that wants to rest versus the part that feels guilty about resting. The part that wants true connection versus the part that is afraid to open up. The part that knows what is right versus the part that wants to do what is easy. When this horseman dominates, you get stuck in cycles of self-sabotage, making decisions you know will hurt you but doing them anyway, creating behavior patterns that destroy relationships and opportunities. The horseman of famine represents the emptiness that many people feel even when they have everything they need in material terms. It is that feeling that something essential is missing, but you do not know exactly what. There are people who try to fill this emptiness with food, with shopping, with casual sex, with alcohol, with excessive work, with anything that gives a momentary feeling of fulfillment. But nothing works because the hunger is not for physical things. It is for meaning, for purpose, for a real connection. And the scale of this horseman shows the paradox. You can have access to everything and still be starving for what really matters. And the horseman of internal death is the process of erasing who you really are to fit what others expect. It is killing your dreams because someone said they are unrealistic. It is killing your creativity because you need to be productive. It is killing your emotions because showing feelings is seen as weakness. It is killing your curiosity because asking questions bothers people. Little by little, piece by piece, you kill parts of yourself until only a shell remains that functions well in society, but has nothing to do with who you could be. The apocalyptic vision, both in the biblical text and in occult interpretations, is not just about the end of the physical world. It is about the end of a cycle, about the destruction of what is old and corrupt, so that something new could be born. And this happens both at the collective level and at the individual level. Societies need to go through crises to transform. People need to face their own internal destructions to rebuild something better. The problem is that most people try to avoid the ride of these horsemen instead of understanding what they bring. At the social level, we try to ignore the signs that the current system is heading for collapse. We continue living as if resources were infinite, as if we could grow forever, as if the consequences of our actions would never arrive. At the personal level, we use all kinds of distraction and numbness to not feel the emptiness, to not face internal conflicts, to not realize we're living lives we did not really choose. The four horsemen, both in the ancient text and in modern reality, are warning signs. They appear when a system is sick, when a structure is about to crumble. And this is not necessarily bad. Sometimes destruction is necessary because what exists is so corrupt that it cannot be reformed, only replaced. But there is a huge difference between chaotic collapse and conscious transformation. When you ignore the warnings and continue on the same path until everything collapses, the result is catastrophic. It is what happened with ancient civilizations that exhausted their resources and collapsed. It is what happens with people who ignore all the signs that their life is going in a destructive direction until they wake up at rock bottom. But when you pay attention to horsemen, when you recognize what they represent and make changes before total collapse, then you can go through transformation in a less brutal way. In the end, the four horsemen of the apocalypse are not enemies to be defeated. They are natural forces that appear when something needs to end. They are part of the cycle of death and rebirth that governs both nature and the human psyche. Try and prevent them from riding is impossible. The only real choice is whether you will ride with them consciously, understanding the process and guiding the transformation, or whether you'll be trampled while trying to cling to what is already dead. And perhaps the biggest mistake about the apocalypse is thinking it is a single event that will happen in the future. The horsemen are riding now. They always have been. Each generation faces its own versions of conquest, war, famine, and death. The difference is that now we live in a time where these forces are operating on a global and individual scale at the same time, amplified by technology and the instant connection between billions of people. What you do with this defines not whether there will be destruction, because there will be, but what is born after it.